I'm angry. I'm angry because I wish I knew this when I was younger. So I'm a neuroscientist and a lecturer. And as a neuroscientist, I study the brain and the nerves that span out into the body. And look, I see some students struggle with their learning, especially the older ones, but it's not their fault. You know, we don't get taught how to learn. We just kind of expect it to happen. And I think the worst curse of all really is it gets harder to learn as we age. But what if I told you that there are things that we can do to learn faster and more effectively? I'm going to take you through the neuroscience behind 6 critical ingredients that can help you learn faster: attention, alertness, sleep, repetition, breaks, and mistakes. So neuroplasticity is the scientific term that essentially means our brain's ability to physically change in response to experience. So when we're learning something, whether it's learning information or learning a skill, tiny little connections called synapses form between neighbouring neurons in the brain. And the more we do that thing, whether it's information or a skill, the more robust those connections become and the better we get at doing whatever it is. So first things first, in order to learn, attention's a really important function. We have the ability to choose how much attention we pay to something. And studies have shown that when we are fully focused on a task, we are much more likely to retain that information, especially for the long term. We're designed to focus on one thing at a time. And if you wanted to improve your attention in the really short term, well, you can actually just exercise. Exercise can actually increase the size of the part of your brain involved in learning and memory. In order to learn, you've got to be alert. If you're not fully focused on a task, then you're going to have a harder time retaining that information. Another thing for alertness is sleep. Yes, if you haven't been sleeping, then yes, you won't be as alert. But sleep is really important for learning for another reason. So sleep serves a really important constellation of functions. So for example, it resets our immune system, it resets our metabolism, it resets our emotional control, and it even gets rid of the waste that builds up in our brain over the course of the day. If you're, make sure you prioritise your sleep before you study, just so you can be a bit more alert, but also really prioritise that study after learning, because you will need that to retain that information for the long term. Repetition is key when it comes to learning. It's not enough to just hear or see something once and expect to remember it forever. Just like exercising builds muscle, repetitive patterns of thinking or doing things will reinforce those pathways and those connections in the brain associated with doing that thing. So it'll become easier to recall. Repeat the thing that you are trying to learn as many times as you can in that learning period. And use the spacing technique. So space your learning out over multiple days. So that way your learning has a chance to build on those new long-term memories. We know that 2 shorter learning periods over different days will result in significantly better learning than using that same amount of time on a single day. Breaks are incredibly important for learning as well. And there are 2 main reasons for that. So first of all, it gives our brains a chance to replay that information. It happens completely subconsciously. It might be even better if you spend 10 to 20 minutes afterwards, either just having a quiet break, no phones of course, having a nap, or doing a round of non-sleep deep rest. So here's what you should do. Make sure you take a 10 to 20 minute break after you finish learning. And if you're at work, well then just try and do those mundane tasks that you can do without thinking too much. And wait at least an hour before trying to learn something similar. Preferably do it on a different day. Next, we have mistakes. And I know making mistakes is terrifying. It is really scary. So that feeling of anxiety and stress you get when you make a mistake serves a really important purpose. So when you make a mistake, it's basically saying to us, hey, you made a mistake, you need to change and do better and become more efficient. So here's what you should do. You should set yourself up for a little bit of failure. If you're learning something, so for example, soccer, don't just, kick it straight at the goal. Change the angle, make it more difficult so you make mistakes. Don't wait for everything to be perfect before you have a go. So when you make a mistake, Don't view that anxiety as a bad thing. Lean into that feeling and keep going, because it's really your brain's way of helping you be your best. It's helping you be better than the person that you were yesterday.